Bradford from Simply Mourne. We're going to hear from her about her business, how she adapted her business during the COVID times, during the recent times. So it's with great pleasure that I will spotlight Catherine. Welcome, and tell us about yourself. Tell us about your business.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for having me here today. I'm Catherine from Simply Mourne. Some people here may know of me, some of you may not. I design pictures using natural materials. And when the pandemic hit last year, 95% of my business closed overnight. I very much worked from home and behind the brand. So I sold mostly into bricks and mortars, and with the lockdown, when it hit, 95% of my business closed overnight. It was a very scary time for me. I did not know where I was going to generate my income, but it was very clear that I had to move the business online. I had thought previously about moving it online, but it was pushing me out of my comfort zone, and it wasn't something that I wanted to do at that stage. But it was very clear at the time, this is what I had to do. It was quite scary because I was also in the process of going through a rebrand of the business. So I was rebranding into Simply Mourne. So I was thinking, right, okay, I'm moving the business online. Are my customers who go and shop for my product in the retail outlets going to go online and look for me? Are they going to be able to find me? Because I am now under a completely new brand. So I paused and I debated for a few days, what do I do here? But with working with the branding company and the company that was building my website, it was very clear I had to just push on with the new brand, because there was no point in building a website with an old brand when I'd already went through all the work with doing the rebrand. So I just went with it, moved online, and then I had to learn a whole new process of marketing. I had to learn new systems. I had to learn how to package products for posting, because with my product being pictures, it had glass, so glass doesn't easily travel through the post. And of course, I was using DPD, who like to use packages as frisbees, as I've been told. So that was a whole new learning curve, having to stress test the different packages and how they were going to work in transit. So yes, a huge learning curve for me. And I guess people say about when you move online to your website, websites don't work overnight. It takes maybe 6 months to a year to be established for people to find you online. I was very fortunate that I had a huge following on social media platforms. So I was learning how to market the business through social media. I very much utilised stories, and stories very much worked for me. But what I believe was the biggest help for me when I moved online was social media influencers. I was very fortunate to have an influencer who bought a product of mine in January. I actually didn't realise she was an influencer until after she had left. It was actually at a trade show. So she came and approached me, but made an order for a product and moved on. And it was somebody who had a stand next to me, said, "Catherine, do you realise who that was?" And I said, no. So she was a huge influencer in RTE in Ireland. So moving on, my website went live in May, and just a week before it went live, this social media influencer shared my product on her stories on Instagram and on Facebook. She had 242k followers. I made over 5k of sales within 3 weeks of her sharing that there. And that was absolutely phenomenal for me. For my business to close overnight, to generate that within a few weeks, it was absolutely massive. and I was so grateful for it. And so that was a very organic way of marketing for me. It was how I gained that there. And then I captured that audience who came and purchased off my website. They all signed up to my emails. So I was able to retain them as customers. And my website just grew from strength to strength from them. So what I thought, okay, this influencer has worked for me. So I reached out then to local marketing companies, and they paired me up with other social media influencers. So over the period of the few months, I was able to collaborate with them, and they were able to do different shout outs and share different products that I had on the website, and that helped build again the audience who I could then remarket to, which was a whole new learning curve for me as well. On top of that there, I sort of felt to myself, okay, I've got an online presence with my website. So do I replicate what I have done with the retail outlets, with the bricks and mortars? So I thought, yes, I need to have more of a presence. So I started to reach out then and join various online marketplaces to try and spread the brand across different platforms. It meant then I just didn't have one revenue stream just coming through my own website. I had other online presences at that stage to bring more income through. So very quickly, I actually closed the sales for that year. I actually had a higher turnover than what I had in my bricks and mortar outlets, which was absolutely phenomenal, and I was delighted with. And I think the main drivers, I would say, that helped was social media influencers, consistently marketing on stories. I didn't do very much marketing on social media platforms, as in Facebook posts and Instagram grid posts. I spent most of my time on stories and looking at the analytics. The stories seemed to be a huge driver. And I spent a bit of time on Google My Business, and I found a high percentage of sales and revenue was driven from Google My Business as well. So yeah, in a nutshell, it was a huge learning curve. Completely flipped the business overnight from being on the high street to online, and that's brought me to where I am today. So if anybody has any questions.
Wow, that is a very inspiring story, and great to hear. Thanks very much for Catherine. I mean, anybody? I've got a few questions myself. I don't know about anybody else. So, anybody have any questions for Catherine?
Catherine, how are you?
Yep, Steve.
Catherine, I had a wee quick look at your website, obviously to see who you were and what you were, just to give myself a bit of info. How did you manage to get into all the retail outlets north and south? Was that a big ask or a big job to do?
Yeah, it was. It took time to grow. I think once you get into that industry and you approach one buyer, to start with, I actually just went into the shops and asked to speak to the buyer and brought samples of my product and just tried to build up a relationship and see if it was something that they were interested in. So that got me into my first 3 retail outlets. From then, I attended quite a lot of craft fairs. So that was very much in the early days when my product, I suppose it wasn't really a business at that stage, it was very much just a hobby. But with attending craft fairs, a lot of buyers would have attended those also, and that would have helped get into retail outlets. After that, my business started to grow, so I moved more away from the craft fairs and started to attend trade shows. And one of the biggest trade shows that I attended was in the RDS in Dublin. It is called Showcase. So Showcase is very much for everybody that's who designs their own product, who has a handmade product designed by themselves. So you go down there, you showcase your work, and buyers from all over the world attend there. I went there in January, just before the pandemic, and my business tripled overnight. into retail outlets, but that only lasted for a couple of months. But you have buyers from all over the world. Recently, so this year in 2021, Showcase went online. So all the buyers would have came online and viewed the different products that were available. And I've managed now to have my product in a retail outlet in New York City, because a buyer happened to see me on that website and has taken my product over to New York.
Very good. No, a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication. So fair play to you. Very good.
And I know I want to ask, how many staff do you have to have done all that?
Right, so that's massive. There's lots of changes coming at the minute. I have had a lady that works for me. I call it casual labour. Every week. So I would, once I make all my product up, she comes along and frames everything ready for dispatch, ready to go out to the outlets. This, with the website and everything, and retail reopening again, everything's got very, very busy for me. So I now have another member that's coming in and doing ad hoc work for me. But I'm still finding that I'm working too much in the business and not on my business. So I want to try and remove myself from that there, but it's very difficult when you're the person that makes the product and you're the designer. So I debated taking somebody in and training them up on trying to design my product for me. And that's a big thing because they have to learn my style. And as an artist and a creative person, it's very hard for somebody else to take that on. So I brought somebody in who actually works in the creative industry, and she is an amazing artist, but she's not very good at promoting her own work. So I thought she would be an excellent person to train, but it just didn't work out. She just could not get my style. So I parked it and left it. But the past month, I've currently taken on a mentor, and it's very clear I do need to train somebody up. Yeah. So I've just worked through a process of how I'm going to do that there, and I'm going to start training somebody as of next week. And I'm hoping to maybe move on to use a fulfillment centre. So I have like a collection of my work. So I have maybe about 20 designs. So 20 that are my biggest sellers. So I'm going to try to build up a stock of those there and have them in a fulfillment centre. So, and hopefully this person will be able to be the person that can create those for me. Yeah. So I can work in other areas of growing the business.
Brilliant, brilliant. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Yeah, if I can ask Catherine, you're saying there, and I haven't looked at the website just yet, but with the sound of things, when you're talking about a fulfillment center, etc., that's, you know, quite wide. But can you still, if somebody has an idea of something that they want for a gift, can you kind of talk through or email through and say, look, you know, we'd like to, this is the idea behind it, and could you take that on and develop it? Is that the sort of thing you can do as well?
Okay, so you're talking about outside the actual current collection then, like the bespoke piece?
Yes.
Commission piece. Yeah, no, I do commission pieces. They do take a very long time to do, and they can be very challenging because with working with natural materials, customers have an idea in their head.
Yeah.
And it's not that you can do a quick sketch and say, is this something that you're thinking about? It takes time, because with working with the natural materials, you have to physically do the design for them, and it may not always be what they have in their head, so it can be very, very challenging. I do them, but I would prefer to move away from that there, because it is very much a distraction from the day-to-day business.
Yes, I can understand. So don't come and ask for something for a birthday present 2 weeks before the birthday.
Yeah.
I can understand. No, that was just something that I was thinking of. In the creative end, you've got a kind of, I can see where very easily the difficulty of communication from what someone thinks to something else would be particularly difficult.
Yeah.
Very
No, it
interesting.
is interesting. Somebody sent me through a photograph of it was the mother, the son, and their dog. And they said, can you please try and replicate this here and get the characteristics of their faces?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Hi, when the first lockdown hit and we were basically all in our houses, did you have enough materials to keep you going without having to go out and find the like pebbles and moss and stuff like that? Or
Yes, I have plenty of stock, plenty of materials, and a lot of my materials are bought in and not all captured from along the coastline. You know, I get a lot of materials from decorative stone companies. So yeah, very fortunate that way. Thanks.
And I've got another question. Just again, everybody's always saying, right, connect with a social influencer, and that's a nice one sentence to say. Okay, we'll go out and get a social influencer. Any tips, any advice? It sounds like the lady from RTE was a right place, right time. And again, in the previous business I worked in really grew because of purely right place, right time. So it's about being everywhere to find that right place. But any other advice, or when you start contacting other influencers, what's the way to approach them so it's not just a
I suppose I'm still trying to understand the social media influencer marketplace. We're actually talking about this here with another group of people earlier on in the week. The girl that posted for me from RTE, she done that post when she was on her story. So she didn't go on to her stories to actually show my product. She was on the stories. I think she might have been doing an interview, or she might have just been, I think she was on talking and debating about something that evening. My picture happened to be in the background, and I think she was getting lots of questions coming through on messages about that picture in the background. Where did you get that from? And she just happened to lift it up then. So it was very organic. And she just happened to share and said, by the way, a lot of people are asking me about this picture. This here has been designed by the lovely Catherine from Simply Mourne. You can find her here. So it was very authentic. Whereas some of the other social media influencers that I have used have not worked just as much, because they've had to go on and they're saying this is a paid ad. So it's very much people are being sold to, and not everybody likes to be sold to. So I think it works more when it's organically done or more authentically done, rather than being paid to do, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, but the downside of that is you can't coach people, I'm assuming, into that process. You can say, like, tell them, oh, today look at this painting from Simply Mourne, blah blah, and it's in your face, sale sort of thing. But when it's just coincidental, you can't plan for that sort of thing. That's the downside of that,
Yeah,
but if you're paying for an influencer, they would get in trouble if they tried to do it more organically. So it's not worth them risking their thousands of followers.
So the way around that there is you can just gift the person. So if they just casually share it without being paid.
That's a risk as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's bottom line is well done, because it's not an easy thing, and yet it looks like you've really knocked it out of the park. So well done.
Thank you.
And thanks very much for that.